Welcome back to the Educational Currency. I'm Robert Naumoski, proprietor of the Coaching College and Ultimate Jiu-Jitsu.
And I'm Chris Kalodikis from Maximum Education. And Rob, what is today? We're back.
We are back for Season 2.
Season 2. We liked it so much, we came back for more.
Absolutely. And today's topic is something I've looked into for myself especially, and now we're going to bring it out to you, sleep.
Okay, and obviously sleep, we're going to be talking about in the context of students and how they should be developing good sleeping patterns as a part of their study. But I think as well, once you start delving into this area, it goes a bit beyond that. I think we all reflect on our own sleeping, being people who work and have jobs and the things that keep us up at night. And so what's kind of led you, Rob, down this pathway of wanting to know more about sleep?
For myself, especially, I do like to get my body performing physically. And at first I saw it just as a tool for recovery. And I looked into it, and the first thing, obviously, person who's doing the rounds, Matthew Walker, Why We Sleep, was my first point of contact. And he's a neurologist, he's done the research on it, and he's got a really, really good selling book. And from that book opened up the whole door to me that sleep was just more for me than just recovery. And I went down the rabbit hole previously, not as much for myself, because I knew, okay, I am getting the right amount of sleep, everything seems to be functioning well, and I just ticked off what I needed to know for me. But then, researching into this podcast, there was a lot more that I was just totally unaware of. And that, in essence, I came to the realization that sleep wasn't just a tool for recovery for myself, it's literally the foundation on which you build everything on. Everything in your body is built on the foundation of your sleep. So I saw it now, not just like a bedrock for a healthy lifestyle or eating, it is the essence of your life. And with that, we bring it in as a topic, and we'll bring it into the essence of high school, what we see with kids and their sleep. And in turn, this is more for families as well.
That's it. And just with some of the information you've already been giving me about this, about just how it's not just, you're going to wake up tired the next morning and you're not going to be focused. It goes far beyond that, doesn't it? It's just how it's impacting on your health and really can have some real physiological issues if not addressed.
In a very scary way. I mean, the principal at the school that we work at, I was discussing it with him, and he gave me, he to himself was looking into it and waking up to Australia's sleep crisis, the Weekend Australian, February 24th, 2024. So it seems to be one of those underlying conditions that's affecting a lot of Australians. And the article reckons up to 40% of Australians are not getting enough sleep. And the ramifications that has, especially on education, will be quite alarming and are quite alarming, especially when we looked into what actually sleep does.
Yeah. And I guess then if we do bring it into the educational context, with the parents out there listening, number one question on their head, their child, how much sleep should they be getting a night?
Up to 9 hours. You have to get more than 7. And that's probably as an adult. So with the child, you're probably looking at 8 plus 9 hours. And with teenagers, could be even more than that. But anything under 7 hours, you are going to find yourself in a lot of trouble. And so with that, as an adult, as the parent, say 7 plus hours. As a teenager going through puberty, etc., you're probably looking at a little bit more than that. But 7 to 9 hours is the recommended amount. And then the whole thing comes into now, what type of sleep are you getting? When are you sleeping? Are you sleeping at a regular time? These things, as the research unfolds, becomes more and more important.
And I guess, you've already highlighted a point there, a routine. There does need to be a routine in place when you're going to sleep. If you go to bed at a certain time each night, it gets easier to start that sleep. But then I guess building a routine can be a challenge. Obviously, with being a parent, you're noticing your child looks tired, or you're not even sure sometimes as they get older, as they're teenagers, they're in their room, you know that you're telling them to go to bed. What could be some signs that a child might not be getting enough sleep? How could a parent identify this? Because sometimes a child might go into the room, and I know in my area of well-being, the parent says, yep, he's in his bedroom at 9 o'clock, but then he could be looking on his phone, he could be gaming, he could still be stimulated before bedtime. So what could be the identifiers that a child's not getting enough sleep?
Waking up in the morning groggy. He's not actually physically present mentally when he's waking up in the morning and you're taking him to school. Now, with the onset of adolescence, that could mean that he just naturally needs a little bit more sleep. But then on the other hand, you have to ask yourself, what is he doing in his room? Is he falling asleep? Now, the research is quite profound with iPads and light. And this was very alarming, where any LED before going to bed sets your circadian rhythm back at least 3 hours. And your circadian rhythm is your natural timing on your body. It's usually 24 hours and 15 minutes. I think some scientists, back in the 20s or 30s, put themselves in a cave and measured it. Came out a month later and they went, okay, here it is. So it's just a little bit more than 24 hours. But studies have shown that, just going out at night, if you read a printed book to an iPad, this suppresses your melatonin by 50% at night.
Wow.
So a melatonin is the start of your sleep. So melatonin it's a starting race, and melatonin goes, okay, start, here we are, your sleep. And then adenosine is what actually builds up when you wake up. So you're actually suppressing your melatonin by 50% up to 3 hours. So, imagine that. If you're looking at your iPad or your kid is looking at the screen at 10 o'clock at night trying to fall asleep at 11, the brain's not switching off till 2 p.m. Then you've got to wake them up in the morning. And that has a very profound effect on their sleep. And sleep, if you're unaware, is broken up into, mainly, you could break it up into two stages. You've got rapid eye movement sleep or non-rapid eye movement sleep. Non-rapid eye NREM sleep is, you're lying next to your partner, their eyes aren't shifting. And rapid eye movement sleep is when you see the eyes shifting. But with sleep, what the researchers are saying, that it's not exactly profoundly one or the other. One happens predominantly more than the other. So back to looking at what your child's doing at night, well, what are they actually doing at night? If there is a computer in the room, if there is an iPad in the room, if they are taking their phone in their room, you will naturally look at it. We look at it. I stopped looking at it myself. Before, probably about a year and a half ago, before I looked into this, I liked to look on my phone, look at cars, look at properties that I can't afford.
And I'm alone, mate.
And all these things. And then I'd fall asleep. But little did I know the disastrous effects it was having. And I myself as well, I used to sleep 12:30 to 5:30, get up and push through. And here's the problem. Your brain doesn't know that you're sleep deprived. You will cognitively function at that level. Yeah. And you think you're okay. And this is what they are saying. So that becomes a big problem. It's like a person having a few shots of alcohol, being over the limit, and definitely is convincing that they can drive. Everything in their mannerism and their action says that they'll be fine, they can drive. But you're over the alcohol limit. And the scary part with the brain with sleep, your brain will do that. You will feel as if you are fine, because then you are cognitively functioning at a much lower level than you would be if you actually slept proper.
So with all those in mind then, and you've said it, like I was hearing you say some of those things, I've got some of those bad habits myself. I'm looking at my tablet before bedtime, I'm playing my Nintendo Switch before bedtime. They're my wind downs, because obviously my kids go to bed, I get about an hour free time. And it's funny, it's something you've got to actively try to challenge there in order to get back onto a good path. So I'm feeling guilty already, which is great. But in saying that, because we are focused on students in education with what you're saying, you've talked about how the impacts on driving and how could be linked to even drinking alcohol. Let's talk about the students in school. How will it affect their performance there, obviously?
Disastrously. You are not mentally ready to learn. And the research is pretty much profound. They have done all the studies where they taught a group a certain activity. I think there was one where it was touching light. For example, there was a light response on the computer. You touched it when the light came up. people do they kept an all-nighter, and as you expect, after an all-nighter, 400% decrease in their ability from an all-nighter, which was expected. You kind of go, okay, that is what would happen. 4 hours of sleep after 6 nights, the performance in group 1 was as bad as an all-nighter.
Wow.
So 4 hours of sleep after 6 nights, which you'd think, okay, 4 hours of sleep ain't enough sleep, you're always waking up tired. The scary one was 6 hours of sleep a night. Well, after 10 days, your performance was the same as an all-nighter. So here's the problem. You don't know mentally that your performance is that impaired. You've had 6 hours of sleep, 10 days, and your response is the same response on this experiment that they did, as if you had an all-nighter. So having a student sit in front of us that's had 6 hours of sleep, well, how would they get 6 hours of sleep? Well, they're on their iPad, they're on their computer in their bedroom. Their melatonin hasn't been released 3 hours later. Then they fall asleep. Then you've got to wake them up in the morning for school. Well, they've definitely had less than 6 hours. You do this consistently across 5 days, you've shut down their chances of learning. And this becomes a very serious problem that, from looking at the studies, that schools will have to address, society will have to address, and I reckon in a short period of time we'll have to change.
Yeah. And look, you're 100% right. And with the example you gave, and also one thing that always sticks out to me that I've had to deal with in schools, a big issue in school is usually school attendance. Okay, we're not across the board, but you'll get a few students in a year group, and almost in every instance, the foundation of their problem is a poor sleep pattern at home. And pretty much you're highlighting there why that's an issue. Whenever you've got a school refusal case with your child not wanting to go to school, 9 out of 10 times, sleep's probably a factor, staying up late, and then being unable to focus at school and being tired, and much rather being at home doing their own routine that is poor is a big issue. And then that's one issue of a bad routine. But then the other one, which you kind of said too, being teachers of year 12, both you and me, sometimes they get into a mentality, no, staying up late and studying late into the night before an exam is good. Okay, and that's a pattern that needs to be broken too, that we can't be up all night and, be fresh for the exam the next day. It's almost working against them, that mentality. So what do you have to say to that?
These are for the kids that are putting the effort in, that really, okay, I'm putting in 100% effort in. I want to attain these ATAR marks and to go to university. You're shooting yourself in the foot in a running race.
Yeah.
And it gets even worse. Now, they're in year 12, they've got their license.
Yeah.
They go out. The studies come even more alarming with alcohol. So there was a study as well where they had 3 different control groups. All were allowed to sleep naturally the first night. Now, they all learn to a 90% level of efficiency, grammar for a new language. And they were efficient at it. Okay, great. The first control group all slept naturally, no problem. Second control group got a little drunk after the first night. Little drunk meaning 2 to 3 shots of vodka, depending on the body type. So if it's a bigger frame person, give them 3 shots. Smaller frame person, give them 3 shots. You wouldn't say it's a lot, but you'd say, okay, it's enough. You're alcohol infected. The third control group, which was the scary one, they were allowed to sleep naturally for the first 2 nights after learning. Then they gave them the same alcohol as they did in the second control group. So you could think, okay, I'm going to school Monday to Friday, Friday night, Saturday I'm going to a party, I have a couple of shots of alcohol, no problem. Now, when they had to show what they learned, the studies were alarming. The first remembered everything they had originally learned. Okay, great. The second retained only 50% of the knowledge they gained, which was, you're learning the knowledge. That day you're drinking 2 to 3 shots of alcohol. Okay. The third, again, when they were tested a week later, only obtained 50% of the knowledge they gained. So let's paint a scenario. You're in year 12. you're studying pretty hard. You've got a test on Monday. Now, you've spent all week studying. Friday night, you go out with your friends, or Saturday, you go to a party or somewhere, and you have 2 to 3 shots of alcohol. You've just lost 50% of the information that you've learned that week for your test on Monday.
Oh, God.
And that's alarming. That really is alarming. The research is out there. These are PhD scientists that actually present these findings. Now, like I said before, mentally, you won't be aware that has happened until you actually come to a scientific experiment. There's a control group, and they can actually measure it. But there's the problem. Cognitively, if you're not aware it's happening, you just don't know.
You think it's business as usual.
It's business as usual, but then again, it's not. And that becomes one of the factors where you go, okay. But then HSC, let's discuss what happens in the HSC as well. Kids now are writing on iPads, which is great. You know, I've seen them do their maths, off they go. But when they study at night, what are they looking on? Back to their iPads.
Yeah.
So then you go back to the research of that 50% melatonin release later on. So it's something where I know myself in the class, I'm going to put a stop to it almost immediately and literally go, look, guys, this is the research. These are the findings.
Yeah.
This is what we need to do. This is especially on our academic kids. So it's not so much, let's just keep this as a warning and make something dire. Let's use sleep as a performance enhancing tool and absolutely knock it for a 6. Because the benefits completely outstrip the negative effects if you actually are inclined for the benefits. Where sleep can mentally put you in a place where you're actually learning a lot faster and a lot more efficiently. So with that in mind, we can put in protocols for yourself, for your family, for everyone else, you know, for the people around you, where you can actually benefit from this. And like I said before, for myself looking into this, it wasn't just about, something to aid in my recovery, in my physical activity. When I looked into it more, it's literally the bedrock of your mental and physical existence.
And I think that's actually a really good way that you kind of put it now. It's not that just it is detrimental to you, but it's almost a competitive edge that students should be thinking about. If you're getting a good amount of sleep, you're learning more and then you're performing better. You know, and obviously that goes into life as well with job performance. So then bringing it back to what you've kind of been touching on. As a parent, how do I help my child then develop a good routine? What kinds of things can I do to assist them to develop a better sleep pattern? What could be recommended based on your research?
I would say have to have a regular sleeping time, regular waking up time. That is key. That is the most important thing to start off with. And nothing beats that. So make sure within that regular sleeping time, regular starting time, you do have that 8 hours of sleep in there. Second thing we said, I would personally, from the bedroom, strip away all electronic equipment to the best you can. So sometimes it's a small apartment, you could say, okay, switch the computer off, take the power off. This and this is why. And the best thing is not to lecture the child. They are smart enough, and let them know why this happens. This is why it's happening. This is what will happen to you. And another thing, obviously, with the computer comes the video games. Now, video games can be even worse, because if you're playing video games till 12, 1 a.m., that's a blue light screen. It's exactly the same.
Don't be mean to video games.
I love video games. Pac-Man's the best video game ever.
They've gotten a lot better in the last few decades, you know.
I should look into it, but Pac-Man ruled.
You did roll. But you do have a point, Rob. They can keep you up, especially if you're playing a game, and the young people these days are very engaged in the game.
I'm not saying don't play your video games. Just don't do it before bed. Get up in the morning, wake up at a decent time, get some sunlight in your eyes. Sunlight's very important. So the first thing you wake up, I would get sunlight in your eyes. That sets your circadian rhythm up. Start your video game. Saturday, 12 p.m., play your video game. Knock off a good 5 hours. Video games aren't the problem. The problem is the way evolution has structured our brain for sleep. And video games, having that blue light screen, is just another device where you're staring into the blue light, which is the actual blue light is the problem. And I think from what they're saying, it's got something to do with evolution, us coming out of the sea and that blue tinge in the sea that happens to, have that effect on us. So it's got to be very, very, very careful. Oh, I can put a filter on. You're still staring into light. No matter what filter you use, you are still staring into light. So there's the problem. So as a parent, no electronic equipment in your actual kid's room. And there was books that I read that I liked on Stephen Bidolph, Raising Boys, Raising Girls, etc., Masculinity. Even he said he's a really good psychologist from Tasmania, probably sold millions of copies on him. In his book, he gets to a point where he goes, okay, any electronic device in your bedroom, okay, remove it now from your child or do not further read the book. Mm. And that was his advice as an actual psychologist. Okay, let's say you have done that. Okay, your child, you've not taken away, you've stopped yourself and the people in your family looking at electronic devices before they go to sleep. What else? You could have a hard time falling asleep. Now, I'm not looking at if you've got a medical condition. If you're a medical condition, you need to see a medical practitioner.
Of course.
And they've got things in place where they can help you through that. I don't think there's so much prescribing sleeping pills now. They've got cognitive therapy that they can actually bring you out of insomnia, etc. But the rule of falling asleep is you need to cool your body down first. The room needs to be cool in order for you to stay asleep. And then as you wake up, your body heats up. Strangely, to cool your body down, you heat it up. So a nice hot shower. Say if you're having a hard time falling asleep, have a nice hot shower or bath. They say the room temperature should be 18 degrees. It's a little extreme. But if you are having a hard time falling asleep and you have the facility of an aircon, set it at, say, 19 degrees. It's better keeping it cooler than actually keep at an Australian temperature of 23, 24 degrees if you have a hard time falling asleep. And then when you wake up in the morning, get the sunlight in your eyes first thing in the morning. It's that the sunlight in your eyes is the number one factor to set your circadian rhythm up in order for you to then fall asleep. And then what happens, drug called adenosine builds up in your system, and then that allows you to fall asleep later on.
And it's actually interesting because you mentioned the point about showers before to me, and I remember saying to you, Albert Huberman says in the morning I've got to have a cold shower, and you actually presented to me really well why you got to have a warm one at night and then a cold shower in the day. And what was that reason again?
Cold shower I think from my own research, not into sleep, cold shower gives you a good dopamine hit. And that's why people do the cold shower, cold plungers, etc. And that slowly increases your dopamine about the same level as illegal drugs do. But then in terms of sleep, it does warm your body up. And that's why waking up in the morning, having a nice hot drink, looking at the sun, okay, it's a good start. It's a good start to your day.
Yeah.
So no cold showers before you go to sleep. Nice hot one that cools your body temperature down. All you have to do is cool down by 1 degree, and then you are pretty much ready to go.
No, that's awesome. No, it's just interesting, eh? These just habits that you don't think are connected to sleep, and yet they are a major factor in developing a strong sleep routine. So, look, we've spoken about the sleep aspect and about now the child getting sleep, things we can do to structure and help them with their sleeping routine. Let's factor in study now. We've said obviously not all nighters are bad. So from your recommendation, also as a tutor and the heading of the college academy, when would be the best times then for a student trying to maintain a good sleep pattern to do their study, especially at a year 12 level when you're studying for the HSC?
Year 12, there's 2 times we need to look at. When you're at school and when you're not at school. School holidays or that 7-8 weeks you get to prepare for your HSC. Now, when you're at school, your hours are set, the times you have to be at school. And this requires you to keep a regular time of waking up in the morning and going to bed at night. And do set that 8-hour period where, okay, you have to get those 8 hours in. So now, if you are a morning type of person, well, that would mean you would go to bed a little earlier. You could do your study in the morning. Mm-hmm. If you're a night type of person, well, you don't want to be up that late at night. You want to keep those hours to as late as possible waking up in order for you to get to school. Mm. So it's a little, there is a little bit of leeway there. So you set your sleep pattern in first and then work around that. So this is the most important thing. In order for you to be able to learn, you have to set your sleep pattern in first. So if you do like waking up in the morning, you are a morning type. If you don't like waking up in the morning, you're an evening type, and then you could have those in between. And there's an evolutionary purpose for that. Mm. So forcing someone to wake up in the morning and study wouldn't work if the person's an evening type. Or keeping someone up at night when they're a morning type. I know myself, I've been a morning, I'm kind of an in-between, but more I'd say a morning type. My HSC, I like studying in the morning, get it over and done with, wake up and off I go. The afternoons, I'd like to do some physical activity and then maybe finish the night with a little bit of study as well. But an evening type of person could study well into the night. Now, if you're on holidays, ideally, depends how long your holidays are. If your holidays are for just 2 weeks, personally, try and keep the same pattern, because then you will change your circadian rhythm. Then you have to change it back again to the school times. So 2-week holiday, keep it within the same time you are waking up and going to bed with school times. You've got 8 weeks, 6, 7 weeks to go for the HSC. You are a night person, great, change your clock. But do put in those quality 8-9 hours of sleep. Once you've done that, then you'll be good to go. And you can do all those tips of having a hot shower before bed, setting the room temperature at 18 degrees if it's possible, waking up in the morning, whatever time that is for you, having that, getting the sun's light in your eyes first thing when you wake up. So you could actually put your circadian rhythm to a more natural time. But unfortunately, during the school times, there's no choice. So you're better off just biting down and actually, customizing yourself to that.
No, that makes sense. Once again, linking back to making a routine that suits you and fitting it all in there. You're a mathematical guy, and we're going to bring in an X factor now.
Yes.
I'm going to incorporate naps into my schedule. How do naps impact? I'm hoping you're going to say good, but
they can. What they're saying is depends. Now, we go back to adenosine. Now, adenosine builds up in your system. If you have a nap, you feel refreshed and you're getting quality work done. And at night, you can fall asleep fine. It's fantastic. Because nap will clear the adenosine out of your system, make you more alert. But then if you've cleared so much adenosine out of your system that you're having a hard time falling asleep at night, the time you're allocating, I wouldn't recommend a nap. So it just depends on how you're getting the 8 hours of sleep. Now, here's another thing. Well, what's your caffeine intake like? That can affect you having a nap. Because caffeine, there's no stimulation in caffeine. Caffeine just blocks the adenosine receptor sites. That's it. So as you wake up in the morning, hopefully you've cleared all the adenosine out.
Wow.
Now, if you're having a coffee in the morning and after your coffee you're feeling sleepy, well, how's your sleep that could be a measure of your sleep of the last 8 hours or so. Now, caffeine has a half-life, depending genetically, say 7 to 5 hours. And caffeine, there are positive elements to caffeine. It's high antioxidant, etc. I'd like about 4 shots before 11 o'clock.
Oh, that's a lot of caffeine.
I do 2 shots, say, I usually get up at about 5:30, 5:45.
Yeah.
Do some sort of training at 6:30. Then I have my first shot of coffee. So I'm actually up an hour and a half before I have my first shot of coffee. So that hour and a half would clear any adenosine in my blood. And then I'd have my first shot of coffee. maybe a double shot. Always do a double shot.
Oh my God.
Double shot of oat latte.
You are a busy man.
And then I'd get to school,
Yeah.
and probably by about 10 o'clock, maybe do another double shot of ice long black sort of thing. And that sort of, okay, I kind of really do enjoy it. Keeps me really alert, and I do enjoy the taste.
Yeah. Do you have a cut off for when your last coffee should be for the day to support your
I
sleep?
would, depends how your body disposes of caffeine, but say caffeine has a half-life of, say 5 hours, 6 hours. You've had 2 shots of coffee at 12 o'clock. By 5 o'clock, that's 1 shot of coffee.
Yeah.
By 10 o'clock, you're going to bed, half a shot of coffee. Now, are you able to get to sleep? There's the problem.
Yeah.
So let's say if you're having a hard time falling asleep, well, push your coffee back. Halve your coffee, push the time back that you're having it. See what happens. Try and do all this before you, say, diagnose yourself, I'm insomniac, etc.
Yeah.
If you are, definitely get help. But these things you can actually try. Try and see.
Yeah, they're things you can control. Okay.
And that's another problem that I've seen with HSC students or seniors in particular.
They're getting started with it, aren't they? But they don't fully
No,
understand it.
they've sat in front of me here with a V. And I went, previously I was okay, great, keeps them alert. I'm sure they're young, they'll fall asleep. Now I know better. Now it's a question of, well, if you're having the V now, it's 6 p.m. and these are pretty, not just any energy drink, these are pretty solid cans.
Yeah,
with
they're
a lot of
big
volume.
cans.
Okay, you're alert now, but how much are you going to really remember tomorrow? How much sleep will you get within that 8-hour period? So for myself, it's a priority number one now, making sure that for my students and anyone I teach, their sleep patterns have to be addressed. For my year 10 class, it was the last thing I did before the start of term 1 break. Told them about sleep, and just gave them the links for Matthew Walker. Again, Why We Sleep, Matthew Walker, and you can actually listen to him, look him up on podcasts. So Mr. Matthew Walker, whenever you're ready, shout out.
He's get him here, our
He's
inspiration.
an educator himself, so if you're ever in Australia, educational currency, come on down, sir. We'd love to have you.
That's it. Look, while you've just spoken about caffeine, is sugar also a factor?
Unfortunately, yes. Now, this goes into the health aspects of sleep. And we could just go down that rabbit hole where it increases your risk of cancer by a very high percentage, etc. Yeah. But sugar does play a high part, because if you haven't slept, you're more inclined to eat higher carbohydrates food. And they've actually done the experiment on this, where they looked at, they had a sample group, gave them enough sleep. Then they had another sample group where they restricted their certain sleeps. And then they asked them on certain foods what they saw as healthy, what they didn't see as healthy, what they craved. Definitely, with not enough sleep, you are going to crave higher carbohydrates food. And there's certain... this is something to be very careful of, because you can get yourself into that very serious loop. And then increase of type 2 diabetes, etc., and everything else that accommodates that. So if you are struggling with your weight, first thing is, again, sleep is not something that's just to keep a healthier life. It is the bedrock of your existence.
Yeah.
So it would be, again, get on top of your sleep, then you will see the benefit of any diet, of any exercise. With anything, even not just people who, let's say if you don't get enough sleep where you get high carbohydrates foods, force yourself, eat healthy. You don't get enough sleep, there is no benefit. Yeah. That's the thing.
And look, the final point I'd like to ask about too, in just learning about this, and once again, linking back to the students that I work with at school, the relationship between anxiety and sleep. Because I've kind of seen sometimes the poor sleep factor increases the anxiety. Yep. But then as a parent, an initial reason that a parent would justify their child not sleeping is because they are anxious, could be anxious about upcoming exams, social issues at school. What would you recommend in those instances that I'm a parent, I can see my child is anxious and that's impacting their sleep? And then how do we work with them through this? What would be that as our final point here today?
Well, anxiety, first of all, okay, is it serious enough to warrant a medical condition? You got to first look into that.
Yeah.
Because it's one of the things where, as teachers, we are not qualified to deal with that.
No.
Now, as much as we'd like to, we would ascertain, we'd do anything to help the child. Again, as soon as it gets to that medical condition, we just don't have the knowledge, and hence this is why you need a professional medical doctor to actually deal with that.
No, that's a great first point. No.
Absolutely. But then again, with anxiety, again, try the tips of the very, very hot shower.
Yep.
Wake up in the morning. Get the sunlight in your eyes. Okay. Stressing out before the exam. Light exercise. Get a dopamine hit. Bring the dopamine in with a nice light walk. Come back, clear your head, okay, and then put in all the other tips and tricks that you can to stimulate the body in for some sleep. But like I said before, it's one of the things that there's no way out of it. You have to get on top of it. And when you do get on top of it, then you can have the carrot with the sleep, where you actually have all the benefit of it, from mental cognition. Imagine I could give you a pill now, and all of a sudden you are 50% smarter.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So on a more positive note, I'm not telling you don't sleep. I'm telling you I can give you something that'll make you 50% smarter. You'll retain your information 600% quicker, and you will be 10 times healthier.
Like, how good is that?
Yeah.
Like, and
it's free.
Yeah. No, you've said it great. Like I said, we, especially when you're working with teenagers and you're parents of teenagers, you say it's a part of a routine, they'll rebel. But you say it's going to give them an advantage, it'll make them stronger and healthier and allow them to perform at optimum level. That's probably a great piece of advice for any parent out there. And look, Rob, I also want to thank you too. Like, this information, everything you're saying, it's not just relevant to our students or in the realm of education. It's relevant to all of us. You know, if we want to be healthy people and live long.
Yeah, I would as a parent get your sleep pattern down first. Mm-hmm. So mum and dad.
We're the role models.
Absolutely. So even having that 1 or 2 alcoholic drinks before sleep. Alcohol doesn't give you a good night's sleep. It's one of the things that they've done enough research on it to realize that it actually shuts down your REM sleep, and that can be a serious problem. So, and they've done it with alcoholics. First thing, when alcoholics recover, they hallucinate.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's your REM sleep. Your rapid eye movement sleep is your dreams, and that can be a serious thing. So even that 1 or 2 drinks just to relax you, you think you're relaxed, and you are, but you are not getting the sleep that you would think you are getting, because you can tell, because after you've had a few drinks, you do go to sleep a little quicker, but you do not wake up refreshed. And that's the key. And with alcohol, you are actually waking up at night, but not realizing. That's what alcohol does. Even those 1 or 2 shots. And that can be detrimental to our health as parents. With kids, we saw the effects of alcohol on learning.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. I know myself, I do like to socialize. In all honesty, 2 or 3 times a year, I know I do go out, we have a few drinks, have a few laughs. But I know that week, everything I've done physically, in terms of training, in terms of learning, just forget about it. Kiss it goodbye.
No, that's
it did not happen. It did not exist. And then be in a physical position where you're healthy enough to let your body recover from it.
That's excellent, Rob. And look, this has been great information with the research you've done. I'm hoping, and I don't think you would have put any of our listeners to sleep. I think this was
if you do need to go to sleep, go for it.
I was itching with that pun. I was ready to put me in a headlock if I said it. Okay?
No, that's fine. There's certain ways we can put people to sleep, but that's a different kind of sleep.
That's it. That's all for another day.
Yeah, it's not the one you want to get yourself into.
Nah, great information.
But like I said, please do look into the book, Why We Sleep, Matthew Walker. have a read of it, and get yourself and your family in a position where, I'm not saying a lot healthier, because this is not about health. This is actually a lot more serious and a lot more than that. But on a positive note, do look into it from a positive perspective, not a negative perspective. It's not something where this is just not sleeping is a picture of doom. Not sleeping is something that can be fixed. And like I said, even the article, Waking Up to Australian Sleep Crisis, doctors grabbed a whole bunch of insomniacs, and there's cognitive therapies that they had to get them back on sleeping. So there is a very, very bright light at the end of the tunnel, but make sure that light's in the morning.
That's right. It's the sun coming into my room.
That's correct.
Excellent, Rob. Thank you very much, okay?
Yeah, pleasure. And like I said before, there's a lot more into this than I just mentioned. Any medically health benefits, etc., etc. If you do want to go down that rabbit hole, please do so.
You read up, look into Matthew Walker.
Absolutely.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much, guys. I'm Chris Kalodikis.
And I'm Robert Naumoski.
See you next time.
See you then. Take care.